Join host Charisma Eve on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and unapologetic authenticity. In each episode, Charisma dives deep into conversations, exploring what it truly means to embrace oneself fully and live life with genuine charisma. From personal antidotes to interviews, Unapologetically Me is a space where vulnerability meets strength, where listeners are encouraged to celebrate their uniqueness and step into their power without reservation. Tune in for inspiring stories, practical tips, and a dose of unfiltered wisdom as Charisma Eve guides you towards embracing your most authentic self. It's time to own your truth and live unapologetically. And now your host, Charisma Eve.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 3 of Unapologetically Charisma Eve. How's everybody doing this evening? Happy Tuesday. How's your day today? I hope everybody had a good day, a good Tuesday. My Tuesday's been pretty good today, and I hope everybody's Tuesday has been good as well. Um, I think I have weathered the storm today, I guess I should say. Um, had a little pain today here and there, but you know what? When you get ready to complain, think about somebody else. Somebody else has had a day that has been just as hard as yours. And when you think about that, then you think about complaining and then you stop. That's how I do it. I think about somebody else whose day has been just as bad as mine, and I turn around and I say, I am just as appreciative, you know, because it could have been bad, or could have been worse, I must say, you know. So this is week 3, and I'm so glad that I've had an opportunity to see my mentor. First of all, I was so happy to see her last weekend. She is absolutely amazing, and I'm just following in her footsteps. One day I want to be like her, you know. Um, and I am so glad to have had some time with her last weekend. I had to leave early and did not get the opportunity to get a book, but I do want to get one because I want to follow in her footsteps. She is just an amazing woman of God. And I'm talking about Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Woo-hoo! Shouts out to her. But she's in Maryland, so I can't get to her as quick as I'd like. But I'm going to get me some books because I definitely wanted to get them. But I know I can probably go on the website and get them, but I want to get them signed. So that's why I didn't get them last weekend, and I didn't get them as soon as I wanted to. But I'll get the opportunity. But moving on, first week I talked about me. Last week I talked about me a little bit more, and I talked about my journey through MS. And you guys know I'm at home. I don't work, and I wanted to tell you a little bit more about that just really quick. So I'm trying to get a work at home job, and let me tell you what happened last week. So a lady called me from Michigan about a job, and we were talking, and just haphazardly, she had MS. And we both were just tripping because I've never seen this woman. Her name was Heidi. And she just happened to have MS, and she had the same type, which I have relapse and remitting. And we just thought it was really cool to find somebody across the country that has the same type of MS as I have. And we were supposed to have been talking about our disease and ended up for 30 minutes talking about, we were supposed to have been talking about the, we were supposed to have been interviewing and ended up for 30 minutes talking about our disease and how God allowed us to get to know each other um, and get to know about our disease, and never seen each other, didn't know each other, and just happened to talk about our disease. And that was so amazing to the both of us. So we got each other's number, and she's gonna be one of our guests and gonna be talking about her having MS. Isn't that something? How God allows you to meet people, just happen to meet people um, with MS, and she's had it for 20 years. She was 54, had it for 20 years, and told me how the doctor had told her to go ahead and have her children before she started to take her shots um, and everything. So it was just amazing how I met somebody and I just wanted to share that with you really quick before I started to talk about what we're going to share tonight, which is cosmetology. Man, I'm telling you, I got a whole lot to talk about when I tell you about cosmetology. Because, ladies, let me tell you. So, how did I get into cosmetology? Well, let me tell you, I have been doing hair since I was 12. I've been doing hair since I was 12, and if I hadn't told you already, if I live to see my birthday, Christmas Eve, I'll be 59, and I had three sisters. I do have one sister that is deceased, who I have written a book about. She passed in December. She passed in November of 2019. I lost her. And so I have two sisters now. But when we were kids, I'm the oldest of four. And her name is Cordelia, but we called her Dee Dee. And I used to do all three of my sisters' hair. And they were guinea pigs. They didn't have a choice. Because my mom, she used to press everybody's hair in the neighborhood. And when she found out that I had a gift to do hair, her words to me were exactly, okay, since you can do hair, I'm going to put the straightening comb up. My job is over. I didn't know that's how it was going to go, but that's how it went. Put the straightening comb up, and I started doing hair at 12. And I started relaxing hair. And back then, it was Jerry curls. And so all the men wanted to look like the DeBarge brothers. They wanted to look, get the Jerry curls. And they wanted to look like Michael Jackson and the DeBarge brothers, and they wanted to have the Jerry curl look. So I was in the eighth grade making a little money, except my mom had a problem with it because she hated the smell in her kitchen. So I had some rules. But anyway, started doing hair at 12. And my major in college, because I didn't want to go to a 4-year college at first, and I really regret that. But my major was fashion merchandising at first. So I went to Barter Fashion College down in Atlanta and did that. Um, and I didn't really want to stick with anything at 17. I graduated when I was 17 and came back home and didn't finish. Went to work instead. So after I did that, I, just did hair, worked in, worked jobs and did hair. So at 19, I went to cosmetology school. I went to cosmetology school, Barter Fashion, not Barter, but I went to Carolina Beauty College in Salisbury. And I went for a while and then I dropped out. Just, I don't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't stick with anything for some reason. And so I dropped out. And then after about 8 months, I went back. Um, and I went back after I got married. My husband encouraged me to go back because I was really good. And so I went back to school, um, and, graduated in 91. And, got my first job in a salon, and I really enjoyed it, you know, and had a good following. And but I had, I worked in a salon where I was very intimidated for some reason or another. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. Some reason or another, we as black people have a problem. Sometimes we're jealous of one another instead of encouraging one another. And I went into a salon with a friend of mine, so I thought. And back then, we were marceling the hair, and cutting and curling was something that was a strong suit of mine. And the person who I was working under was a mentor of mine, so I thought. And I was cutting and curling, and everybody was requesting once I got into the salon. And it was unfortunate, but the person that I worked under, she would say things like, "Oh, she thinks she's something because look at those beauty school curls," out in front of everybody. And she knew that I could be very easily intimidated. And she would say things like this, and I would go out back and cry while my customer was under the dryer, you know. But I learned later that it was because she couldn't do it. She would, instead of shampooing and cutting her client and then curling them up, she would curl her client and cut while she was curling, which was a bad thing. I later learned that she couldn't cut hair. Okay. And after I had been there for a while, I moved on to another salon, and I saw those type of things as I moved from one salon to another. And then in '94, I went back to school to get my teacher's license. And '95, I graduated from the same school to get my teacher's license. So in '95, I got my teacher's license because the man that owned um, Carolina Beauty College, he asked me, he said, "Miss Stinson, I need teachers." He said, "You're really good." And he said that you have a gift with people. He said, "And then you can do hair." He said, "And I need teachers." He said, "I'll pay for you to go to school." Oh, I was like, okay, bet, let's do it. So I went ahead and signed up, and I went back to school, got my 800 hours because that was what was required to get your teacher's license. So I got my teacher's license in '95, and I started teaching for Carolina Beauty College. And I taught for them for uh, about 4 years, and then I left Carolina, and I was working for Carolina, and I was doing hair for J.C. Penney's down in Charlotte. And one of my students at Carolina told me, said, "Miss Stinson, Empire Beauty School is coming south." I said, "Who is that?" And she told me a little bit about Empire, but the main thing she told me was they were paying $13 an hour. I was like, "Oh, okay, I like that." Because at the time I was only making $10 an hour. So I was like, "Let me go check them out." She said, "You should. They look like they would be around your type of people, because I like to dress, I like to look good, and I would teach the students, you're only as good as you look. You know what I'm saying? You're only as good as what you perceive to the people. And I always would say to the students, because they would always make people feel as though they were a hairdresser was dumb. And I didn't like that perception that a hairdresser or a beautician, quote unquote, was too stupid to do anything else. So that's why they chose to do hair. Oh, she's just going to beauty school because she's too stupid to do anything else. I don't know about anybody else, but not me. I did not want to fit into that category. So I said, okay, I wore on my white lab coat PhD. Well, Miss Stinson, what does that stand for? Professional hair doctor. I'm not a beautician. I'm not a cosmetologist. I am a professional hair doctor. And even to this day, there is a trichology school in, I think it's in Maryland, and there's one in DC. And they called me the other day about taking some classes because I aspire to do more if there's more to be done. So I have gone ahead and got my degree in cosmetology. I have my associate's degree in cosmetology. And when she called me the other day about getting my trichology certificate, because if there's more to learn, I want that education. I want that piece of paper, you know. And so if you can learn more, you can teach your client more. And so I want to be in this profession to do more. I have wigs and things here at home that I always cut and play with so that I can keep my hands always busy to do something, active to do something. I will always reading, watching videos to keep my mind active because just because I'm not out there in the industry, I want to stay active so that if I ever go back into the salon or like I used to teach and travel and teach for a company out of Atlanta. I used to be an educator for a company out of Atlanta. So I taught for Empire actually for 14 years until I couldn't teach anymore. When that was when 2013 when I got diagnosed with MS. Um, I taught for um, Davidson Community College for about 2 or 3 years when my sister was diagnosed with HIV. And then I taught for Dudley's for about 6 months um, also. And I just heard the other day that Mr. Dudley passed away. I didn't know that. He passed away about 3 weeks ago. And I had a chance to meet him and had a chance to meet his wife. And I actually had a chance to meet some celebrities because they took me to Chicago. They wanted me to work for their Chicago school. So I have been very fortunate to spread my wings and learn and teach for some different companies, and I've been very blessed by cosmetology. And I had the opportunity actually to work for Dudley's, but because I was married, because they offered me a position in Chicago. But I told Miss Betty, I said, well, Miss Betty, I like Chicago and would love to work for Chicago because I had to go and do a class for them. And she wanted me to come and live there and work for them. But I said, I can't because my husband doesn't like cold weather. So because of that, I have to stay with him. But you have to make yourself marketable. And I would teach that to my students. You have to become marketable. And when you are marketable, then they want you to come and work for them. Miss Coffee, who is the director in Charlotte, she wanted me to come to work for them in Charlotte. Um, and I love being marketable, even though I can't go anywhere right now. Um, I've had a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn on my resume. So when you're marketable, you can offer yourself um, to go anywhere, you know. And now that I'm doing this, the podcast and other things, I can add these things to my resume and it'll make me even more marketable. So I'm very grateful and I have a lot of things that I aspire to do, more things, and I'm glad that Dr. Porter offered this podcast because just sitting here at home and not doing anything wasn't giving me anything, any options to put on my resume. But now I have more because of her, and she's blessed me, and I'm grateful for that. But I said I wasn't going to have anything to talk about tonight, but I obviously see I had a lot to talk about. And I didn't think cosmetology was going to offer me a plethora of things to talk about, but there are more that I could add. But my 20 minutes are up, and it has been a pleasure to sit and chat with you all tonight. And when we come back on next week, whenever we come back, if you have some things you might want to share about cosmetology, or if you remember me from somewhere, because I can be in the grocery store and students will say, Miss Stinson, I heard you last week. Come on, join in, say hello. But for now, I'm going to say good night. And for this evening, I'm unapologetically Charisma Eve signing off. Good night. Have a blessed week. All right? Good night.
Thank you for joining Unapologetically Me, Charisma Eve. Please like, share, and subscribe, and join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time for another exciting episode wherever you listen to your podcast.